I'm 96 years old, and after almost a century of living, after loving someone for more than half of my life, there is something I wish someone had told me about marriage when I was young. Because if they had, I would have worried less, fought less, and appreciated the quiet moments a lot more. You see, people talk about marriage like it's a fairy tale. They talk about soulmates. They talk about finding the one. They talk about perfect love. But after 72 years of marriage, I'm here to tell you the honest truth. Marriage is not a fairy tale, and that's exactly why it can become something far more beautiful. Let me explain. I married my husband when I was 23 years old. His name was Daniel. He was tall, confident, and had a smile that made everyone in the room feel comfortable. He worked at a small repair shop in town. He wasn't rich, he wasn't famous, but he was kind, and back then, that felt like enough. I remember our wedding day like it was yesterday. The church was small, the flowers were simple, my dress was borrowed from my cousin. But when Daniel held my hand at the altar, I truly believed we would be happy forever. And in many ways, we were. But not in the way young people imagine happiness. Because real marriage is much more complicated than that. In the first few years, everything felt exciting. We were building a life together. Our first tiny apartment, our first second-hand coat. Our first arguments about money. Yes, the arguments started early. Daniel liked to fix things himself. Sometimes that meant the sink stayed broken for weeks. I liked things organized. He liked things good enough. I wanted to talk about problems immediately. Daniel preferred silence. At first, these differences felt small, but over time they grew. And there were moments when I wondered something that many married people secretly wonder. Did I marry the wrong person? I never said those words out loud, but the thought was there, quiet, uncomfortable, and persistent. One afternoon when I was 29 years old, I was sitting on my porch with my neighbor, Clara. Clara had been married for more than 40 years. I told her something I had never told anyone. I said, "Clara, I love Daniel, but sometimes I feel like we are completely different people." She listened quietly, then she smiled, not in a mocking way, but in the way someone smiles when they recognize a familiar story. And then she said something that stayed with me for the rest of my life. She said, "Marriage isn't about finding the perfect person. It's about learning how to live with an imperfect one." At the time, that answer disappointed me. I wanted something more romantic, something magical. But now, at 96 years old, I understand exactly what she meant. The truth is, people change, a lot. The man I married at 23 was not the same man I lived with at 50, and he was certainly not the same man I cared for at 80. Life changes people. Jobs are lost, parents pass away, children grow up, health fades, dreams shift, and every one of those things reshapes the person standing beside you. Daniel at 30 was ambitious and restless. Daniel at 45 was tired and worried about bills. Daniel at 60 was calmer, softer. Daniel at 82 needed help tying his shoes. Which version of him did I marry? All of them. And none of them. Because marriage is not a single decision. It's thousands of decisions, made again and again over time. There were seasons in our marriage when things felt easy. We laughed a lot, road trips with the kids, late-night conversations in the kitchen, quiet mornings drinking coffee together. But there were also hard seasons, years when money was tight, months when we barely spoke after arguments, times when life felt heavy for both of us. I remember one winter when Daniel lost his job. He stopped smiling. He stopped talking. For weeks, he would just sit in the living room staring at the floor. I didn't know how to fix it, so I simply sat beside him. Sometimes love is not words. Sometimes love is just staying. Another truth people rarely say out loud is this: marriage is not always balanced. Some years it feels like 50-50, but many years it isn't. There were times when Daniel carried the weight of our family, and there were times when I carried him. After my surgery in my 70s, Daniel cooked every meal. He helped me walk to the bathroom. He brushed my hair when my arms were too weak to lift. And he never once complained. Years earlier, when he was struggling with depression after his brother died, I was the one holding things together. That's what partnership really looks like. Not perfect balance, but taking turns being strong. Young couples today often expect their partner to be everything: their best friend, their therapist, their entertainment, their financial partner, their emotional support, their adventure buddy, and their perfect romantic partner all at the same time. But one person cannot be everything. Daniel wasn't my best friend. My best friend was Margaret. Daniel didn't love books the way I did, but he could fix any engine you put in front of him. We were different in many ways, and strangely, that difference is what helped us survive. Now I am 96 years old. Daniel passed away 9 years ago. The house is quiet now. Sometimes I still reach for his side of the bed. Old habits stay with you. But when I look back at our life together, I don't remember the arguments about dishes or the disagreements about money. What I remember are the ordinary moments, holding hands while watching television, laughing at silly jokes, the way he always warmed up my coffee in the microwave because I drank it too slowly, those small moments. That's what a lifetime of love is really made of. So here is my honest truth about marriage, not the fairy tale version, the real one. You will not always feel in love. You will not always agree. And there will be moments when you wonder if you made the wrong choice. But love is not something that simply happens to you. Love is something you build, slowly, patiently, day after day. Marriage works not because two people are perfect for each other, but because they keep choosing each other, even when it's difficult, even when life gets messy, even when the excitement fades. At the end of the day, that choice is what makes love last. If I could go back and speak to my 23-year-old self standing at that altar, I wouldn't tell her to find someone better. I wouldn't tell her to search for a soulmate. I would simply tell her this: be patient, be kind, and remember that love grows stronger not in the perfect moments, but in the imperfect ones. Because a long marriage is not built in the wedding ceremony. It is built in thousands of ordinary days that follow. And if you're lucky, one day you'll wake up at 96 years old, look back on your life, and realize that imperfect love was the most beautiful thing you ever had.